Hello, everyone. Welcome to History of Film and TV. I am one of your co-hosts, MB Geek. We have my two also amazing co-hosts who also, for reasons I still can't call each other, but we'll let that one go. Alicia AVP and Jack Beers. Hello, Shadow Man. How are you doing, sir? Uh, Today, folks, we are going to go over a simpler time, the 80s, cartoons, before the agenda. But before we do that, I have a public service announcement to make. I don't care how much liquid courage you have, it's not a good idea to harass Mike Tyson. It's actually I think it's bad for your health. And unfortunately, we seem to have had one idiot on an airplane who had a little too much liquid courage and not enough common sense to remind everyone why you don't harass Mike Tyson. I mean, I don't know how old that guy was, but I'm like, here's two things I remember about that era. You did not need to know a damn thing about boxing to know who Mike Tyson was. You did not need to know shit about basketball to know who Michael Jordan was. Those two people were transcending those sports. It's just like flat out, everybody knew who those people were. Mm-hmm. So just saying, or like one guy said, first rule about Fight Club, don't harass Mike Tyson. Second rule about Fight Club, definitely don't harass Mike Tyson. Third rule, if this is your first time here and you harass Mike Tyson and you walk away alive, consider yourself lucky. All right, no problem. All right, Mrs. Watchtower.
Hey, Chloe.
How are you doing? So, yeah, like I said, folks, this is my new, I told my co-host here, it's my new computer, so I actually get a better camera view, and now I finally have my dual screens again. And, yeah, apparently my LEDs look a whole lot nicer now. I also don't look fuzzy as hell, and the camera's a little not as close to my face as it used to be. So, guys, we've been out for a couple of weeks. Obviously, we all had, whatever come up. But honestly, if I don't have the two of you, it just won't feel right anymore. Sorry, Jack. Love you to death, but we got to have Alicia now. So
no, I know. I agree.
Good.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody liking the LED. This was actually not my original idea. This was something my youngest daughter, Charlene, came up with. She wanted LED lights in her room. So we did order some. And it basically the same thing I got here where I can change the colors and brightness and everything. And she had hers up, and I was like, seeing it, and I was like, I like this. I was like, I want this for my den. And my son wanted it for his room. So, yeah, we've got 3 rooms that have these LED lights, these little track lights go through. And they almost go completely around the room. If they had a battery section, it would actually probably go all the way around, but it goes around almost the entire room, which is awesome. I love it. What is it? I think that color there matches. There we go. Let's see. Now I don't have this on the right one yet. No, it's on the red one. Oh, here, I can fix that. There we go.
There we are.
Okay, now that looks a little. Oh God, man! If I had a mask on, that would look even creepier. Okay, that's a little too creepy, even for me. All right, so, guys, I'm going to talk about the 2 Voltrons that we got in America. Of course, you probably know which one of the 2 Voltrons I'm going to spend the most time talking about. And for those of you who may not, I'll just give you a little hint. The rest of them are up there. should have seen me the day I got. You should have seen me the day I went into the retro store, the toy store, and looked up, saw this entire Voltron All Alliance put together, all the attachments. I'm like, I know it says don't grab from the top, but I'm like, oh, these guys know me. They know if I grab something, I'm buying it. And that's exactly what I did. I just grabbed it, walked over, and it's not the first time I walked over and I go, yeah, just hold that right there. That's what I'm buying. It's like when I got Private Hudson and I saw him up on the wall there when I was picking him. I was like, yeah, just put him over here. I was like, yeah. Hudson over there, just put him over here. And they're like, do you want to know how much it is? I'm like, does it matter? Which actually was kind of a joke with them because they know chances are if I say I want it, I've already figured out I can afford it.
Right.
I am not a Sith Lord. I am a Sith non-binary. Do not mislabel me. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's been a long weekend. I'm a little tired, but, just figure let's have some fun like we always try to do. Because otherwise, what's the point? Wait a minute. What does that say, Jack? Smart like Donatello.
Oh, smart like Donatello, funny like Michelangelo, brave like Leonardo, and strong like Raphael.
Damn. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that shirt before.
Yeah, so I got it. Mine now.
Yeah.
I'll be covering the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, by the way. If you haven't realized it.
No.
Yes, exactly.
So, where's Raphael with Baby Yoda and Silent Bob?
Oh, well, Baby Yoda and Silent Bob are inside, but I got Raphael right here.
Yep. Cowabunga, dudes.
Now, here's a question: Is that classic?
Yeah, this is a
Is that
classic
an old
one.
school classic?
Yeah, in the back of the shell it says Mirage Studios 1983.
Sweet.
So
I know some people would pay a couple of pennies for that.
yep. And yeah, so what I'll be covering is basically the cartoons that were made to sell stuff like this. So
Actually, that's why you picked TMNT and He-Man.
mm-hmm.
No, good choices.
Similar thing.
I'll recommend to you. Hey, Lisa, do you mind if it goes first? Because I'm really curious to hear about this.
Yes, that's fine. He can go
Okay.
first. My darling, go first.
Okay, so just FYI, if you have Netflix, which I know a lot of people have dropped, and that's fine. I don't really care. I don't get into that. They have the movies that made us or the TV shows that made us. And they did one on He-Man and they did do one on TMNT.
Yes.
And
Yes.
both were fantastic. But yeah, that was what a lot of those syndicated shows were back then. It was really the cartoons were made to sell the toys. The toys were the first thing. So,
Yeah.
With that said, you have the floor, sir.
I guess I do. Okay, so yeah, as I said before, like I'm going to be covering 80s cartoons, but the specific theme I chose were 80s cartoons that were made to sell stuff like this. This is He-Man, and you'll be the first one we're talking about today. So, but I do need to give some background information a little bit. So I'll go ahead and do that. So in the early days of like television, companies that would just sell random products such as like hairspray or razor blades or whatever, they realized that the power of television for brand recognition. And so they would often sponsor a show or they would create their own shows in order to advertise their own products. So, so the way they did that back in the day was they didn't have commercial breaks like they do today. Instead, the ads were incorporated into the programming. For instance, What's My Line, the old show from the 1950s, they would be sponsored by different sponsors, Kellogg's, Stop at Deodorant, whatnot. And so in the very beginning of their show, they would tell you who the sponsor is, and then every time there was a segment, when they would switch to another segment, they would do so by advertising their product, while so it would be the host doing it and stuff like that. So in the early 1960s, that changed. The FCC passed regulation that would prevent television programs to be used in that way. And this is the beginning of the modern day commercial break, where instead of the host talking about the product or something, or cartoons smoking cigarettes and shit, they just have a commercial break. We'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors. And then
and I don't mean to interrupt, but I think they did that mainly because, remember, that's how radio did it a lot of times too, and still does to this day. They still have the host doing some of the advertising.
True. That's very true. So with that out of the way, in 1977, Star Wars came out, and it was a hit. It was a big phenomenon. And so once it was a hit, George Lucas decided to approach Mattel to pitch them a Star Wars toy line. But Mattel turned them down. They turned him down. So he went to Kenner, who accepted, and the toys were so successful, it's what made George Lucas a billionaire. Right? So in
Mattel was kicking themselves in the ass.
They were kicking themselves. Yeah, they were definitely kicking themselves. So in 1979, Mattel decides to make a toy line to compete with Star Wars. And so they have their marketing do research, and they decide on a theme of power. And from there, they had 3 different ideas for a toy line. The first one was a barbarian. The second one was a guy with a bullet head, and the bullet head looked like Boba Fett's helmet. And the third one had a tank for a head. They went with the barbarian. And based on the Charles Atlas ads that were out at the time, they named that barbarian He-Man. And so they got final designs for He-Man and some of the other characters from a guy named Mark Taylor. And so Mark Taylor, 2 things about him. When Mark was a boy, he went to an amusement park in Long Beach where they had a haunted house. He goes in, and within the haunted house, he finds a skeletal body. It was a real body. And so when he saw it, he knew it was a real body, and as a little boy, got scared and ran out. So when they came up with the idea of Skeletor, that was his inspiration for Skeletor. The other thing was they had it. Merman, his original name had to be changed to Merman because his original name was Seaman. Right. So
maybe I'd find that funny if it hadn't been for the fact I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps.
So when they started making the actual toys, they ended up running out of tooling money, which is like how they come up with different concepts and different things, and they needed a vehicle. So they ended up taking a tiger from their big gym toy line that they owned. They painted the tiger green, gave it a saddle and some armor, and voila, Battle Cat. Right? I don't have Battle Cat, so pretend He-Man is riding Battle Cat.
I actually do have Battle Cat. I can't show it to you because it's hanging up on my wall, and Prince Adam with his sky thing is on the top. But yeah, I remember that. That was in that TV shows that made us. They talked about how they created him.
Right.
And you also had the voice actor who did Skeletor, and they talked about how he came up with the voice and the laugh and stuff. And he said, things like, he didn't really come up with that till like maybe the 3rd episode, and then it just kind of came in, and he did this. Once he knew the character was skeleton, like he was doing the nasally thing, and it just it kind of stuck. Yeah,
that's true. And so the name of the toy line started out as Lords of Power. But then at the last minute, they changed it to Masters of the Universe because they thought Lords of Power was too religious. So,
I can see that.
right. And so now it's time to get the retailers to invest. And so, in an executive meeting with a toy store called Child World, it came up that Star Wars has a movie and that the kids who buy the toys know the characters in the story of Star Wars. So it was decided on the spot by the people pitching the idea. And when I say on the spot, as in they literally came up with it on the spot, they decided that Mattel would add a free mini comic to all the toys. So
I used to remember those. I used to love reading those when I was a kid. That was actually the second thing. And I don't mean to interrupt you, obviously, Jack, but you know how it is. We talk about stuff I'm very passionate about. My experiences. I remember there were two things that really I enjoyed: getting the toy and then getting to read the new comic.
Right.
Because comics were, well, back in the 1980s, it just, we didn't know what comics were out there. We were kids. We only knew what we saw. Gas stations had those turnstile comics every now and again, but it was something very unique about the Masters of the Universe ones, because you get a toy and there'd be a comic in there. And it was the only toy that ever had that. It was, kind of unique, like, say, G.I. Joe. When you get a G.I. Joe toy, you'd look on the back and see the little cutout card you could take. Yeah, exactly. And you'd want that almost as much as you'd want the toy. Mm-hmm. Strangely as that sounds, but we did.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. And so that's what they decided to do. They wanted to make, they put the little comics in the back of all the toys and stuff like that, so that you have an idea of what the story is about. And but then 2 weeks later, in another executive meeting, this time with Toys R Us, somebody pointed out that if the toys are meant for 5-year-olds who haven't learned to read yet, how are they going to read the mini comics? Which
no, they do have a good point. I was that age, and
it is a good point.
It's a good point too, because I was that age when He-Man came out, and I was excited about the comic, but I couldn't read it. But thankfully, my mom or dad would read it to me while I'm looking, and so
so that was pointed out, and so it was decided on the spot again. That two 1-hour specials would be made to further market the toy. So, and meanwhile, in 1981, Ronald Reagan took over, and the FCC under Ronald Reagan deregulated all the 1960 era regulations. So once again, programs were allowed to be aired that could be used as an advertisement. So Mattel, they met with Lou Scheimer and of Filmation, who had previously done Star Trek the Animated Series and Ghostbusters, not the real Ghostbusters, but the one that came before.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, got to differentiate the two.
For those of you who don't know, that actual story with Filmation and having the Ghostbusters, if you watch movies that made us on Netflix, and you watch about the Ghostbusters movie, that was a real problem for the movie, because they had to they were doing double filming. They were doing Ghostbusters, and I forgot what the other one was. Ghostbreakers, yeah. And it was like everybody's saying Ghostbusters. Is like, the guy was calling on the phone. He's like, dude, we got to get this for it was actually a very good documentary. I loved it.
Oh yeah. But back to He-Man.
But back to that. So you brought up Filmation.
So Filmation, Lou Scheimer, and Mattel, they get together. Scheimer suggested that instead of 2 1-hour specials, they could make a syndicated show of 65 episodes for a similar price. And so Mattel went with that. And so the Masters of the Universe toy line, this stuff here, yay. Well, this isn't the original one, but they would be released in 1982. And the first year that they were released, Mattel made about $32 million the first year. So it was successful. And so in 1982, out as well, a series Bible in December of 1982, a series Bible for the show was written. And Mattel and Filmation did try to pitch the show to ABC, but ABC turned it down. And so now I kind of want to explain. I want to explain how they made these things, because that's one of the things I found so fascinating. So first things first, they pitch a storyline, right? So let's say they're in a meeting. What are we going to do for this episode? Let's do a Battle Cat backstory, right? And so they start working on the script. You know, they figure, okay, we can start off with like Orko being mischievous in Man at Arms lab and getting himself in trouble. All right, we can do that. From there, they do storyboards and voices. And for the storyboards, I actually have this. This is a He-Man and She-Ra, a complete guide to the classic animated. This has production
Where
notes.
did you get that?
From a comic book shop.
Mm-hmm.
This has production notes from, I wish I could show you, but from every He-Man and She-Ra episode. And then also it gives you storyboards, it gives you drawings and stuff like that. So let me give you an example of what the storyboards look like. Jesus. This is heavy, by the way.
It is.
Can you see that, Ray?
Let me try to blow you up real quick.
All right, let me.
Solo layout. There we go.
There you
All right, so that's kind of what just rough sketches of how it's supposed to look. And then from there, they would take those rough sketches and they would start making drawings and like animated drawings out of it, right? They're called production drawings. And so we got Orko getting in trouble. in this drawing, he's actually about to open a cabinet in Man at Arms' lab, right?
That's a no-no.
Yeah. After Man at Arms told him no. And so this is an actual production drawing that I bought, and so you can see that they started off with the blue pencil, because when they Xerox it, the blue will not transfer in the Xerox. So
no,
they
that's
start off
right.
So they start off with the blue, and then they pencil it in, and then and then of course they compare it with the other drawings to make sure the animation is smooth. And then what they used to do, this technique was actually originated by Disney. Mm-hmm. So what they used to do was they used to take a clear plastic paper, they call it celluloid paper, and they would put it over the drawing, and they would ink in the cell. But then around the 70s or 80s, they realized, hey, we can save a lot more money if we Xeroxed the sheet, the paper right onto the celluloid paper. So that's what they began to do. And then I got Orko. This is an actual Orko. This is the same production drawing, but it's now an animation cell. The background is not original, but that's an original cell. And if I were to take this out, you could actually feel the Xerox ink on this side. And if I were to flip it over, you could also see all the paint that's blotted in the back.
By the way, Alicia, when he first showed me these two, I told him, okay, I'm jelly as hell now.
I know. But you can't
come
to visit, but you can't live with us.
What's that?
Nothing. Never mind.
No worries.
I'll tell you
then they would paint the cell, and then they would match it up with the background and the other cells to make sure that they're smooth. Then they put that all together, and they would start photographing each frame by frame. From there, they take the photographs, process them onto film, add the sound, and That's it. You have a cartoon. So, I was really happy to do that because I got to show off my shit.
One of the things too with
But I also think it's
Filmation was,
educational.
well, one of the things about Filmation too was one of the benefits of them was they worked on the cheap. And
Yes, they did.
when you look at a lot of the stuff they did, they used a lot of what is now called restock photo.
Mm-hmm.
You just use a scene from a prior thing and you do that to cut costs, which they did. And then, of course, they used a lot. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, okay. I was like, oh, there's a private jet. Okay, I gotcha.
That's me.
All right, I got you. No worries. I thought that's what I kind of thought you said. But
Yes.
when you look at Filmation, they were able to do things on the cheap and somehow still make something that we, as children growing up at that time, still enjoyed. And then remember also, they at that time we were getting PSA announcements at the end of the show. If you think about it, when you look at, He-Man, they would always, tell you what the kind of give you an idea of what the message was of the episode. And then, you would have, it was always interesting because I noticed this. The men would wink, and then if there was a woman there, she would wink with the other eye. There's always a separate eye. I don't know why, but I have an issue with one of my eyes. I believe it's this one because I have people like, "Did you just wink at me?" I'm like, "No," and they're like, "Yeah, you did." I'm like, "No," and it's because I have apparently some nervous twitch here with this one that sometimes blinks when the other one doesn't. I mean, I don't really notice. I can't pay attention to that. I blink when I blink. I breathe when I breathe. I don't know any way to control that. Sorry, I look. I've tried to win a staring down contest. I have about as much luck as that as a poker face.
Okay.
So there is that. But yeah, I mean, when we had these and we didn't even realize these were toys. The whole point of the cartoon series was the toys,
Right.
sell the toys. But boy, when we saw those series, we bought those. We begged our parents to buy those toys. Hey, I need this so I can put all my toys in this little box here, and kind of like your little suitcase with your toys in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you had He-Man, Beast-Man, all that stuff.
Right. Now they did make a bunch of changes from the comics though.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So they introduced Prince Adam, his monarch parents. They split Tila and the sorceress into two characters. They added an Orko and a really badass power up sequence. Oh, and the morals in the end. They added all that stuff, and then they also gave it a pretty decent backstory. I thought it was. So He-Man and the Masters of the Universe debuted through barter syndication on September of 1983, and the show averaged about 8 million viewers. The cartoon boosted the sale of He-Man toys to $80 million for 1983, and it also gave them extra income from licensing. So suddenly now you got He-Man shirts, He-Man stickers, He-Man underwear, He-Man everything. In 1984, the toy line made $111 million. And then with the success of He-Man, it became common practice to advertise toys using cartoons. And so they also realized that 20% of the kids who watched Masters of the Universe and bought the toys were female. So they started marketing to them. And after after 2 seasons and 130 episodes of He-Man, in September of 1985, they debuted She-Ra. And She-Ra would go on to make 2 seasons and 94 episodes. And they would keep making a lot of money. In 1985, the toy line made $250 million. In 1986, the toy line made $400. But then in 1987, they were like, let's make a movie. And it bombed so bad that it put Canon Films out of business. And the toy line only made $7 million that year.
Oh, yeah, that I remember being so excited about wanting to go see that He-Man movie. And then I'm like, what the yeah, and it's 1986. I'm 6 years old, and even I'm like, what the hell is this? This isn't He-Man. Where's That's not Tila.
Where's Orko?
Where's Orko?
Who's this Gwildor guy?
Yeah. Yeah, Jack, okay, yeah, you pretty much, it's like, wait a minute, why is Evelyn, wait a minute, that doesn't look like Beastman. Who's this Tar guy? Who's this guy Blade? What is with these people? Where's Merman? No,
So, yeah.
I mean, that was literally how I think a lot of us were. We were like, where are the characters we know?
Right, yeah.
And
So-
why are they acting like it? Because Tila did it. It's like, why do we have these people from Earth? I mean, seriously, who gives a shit? That wasn't what we wanted to see.
Yeah, but Frank Langella's performance, however, perfect.
Oh, as Skeletor?
Yeah, I think he did a good job at Skeletor, at least.
Hey, give him credit. He did give it his all.
He did.
Yes.
Yeah. So other cartoons that were used to sell toy brands were Rainbow Bright, the Transformers, the Centurions, Thundercats, G.I. Joe, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay, so now we get to talk about them.
Hey, Alicia, I have a feeling we're going to have to turn this into a 3-parter. Because I think he's going to run us out of time with TMNT. We're going to have to give you an hour for yours, and I'm going to want to go an hour into Voltron. So we may have to make this a 3-parter, but that's okay. That's one of the fun things. But please, let's go into one of the most awesomest cartoons of the 80s.
Oh yes, so that one starts off with Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They're 2 independent comic book artists from New Hampshire, and in 1983 they moved in together in a home that would later be called Mirage Studios. Mirage, they called it Mirage because it wasn't really a studio; it was their living room. So it was a joke. So one day in November of that year, it's about 2 months after He-Man debuted, the He-Man cartoon debuted, Kevin Eastman thought, if Bruce Lee was an animal, what would the silliest one be? So he thought about it, and then as a joke, he drew a turtle with a bandana and nunchucks attached to its forearms. This one. This is like a small print of it, but this, so yeah. So that's supposed to be like Bruce Lee as a turtle, basically. Right? So he showed it to Peter Laird as a joke, saying that it was going to be the next big hit. And Laird laughed, and he made his own version of the character. And then Eastman penciled in 4 bandana turtles, all with different weapons, and titled them Ninja Turtles. And then Laird inked it and added Teenage Mutant to the title, and they both had a good laugh. And that's how the turtles were first born. So the next morning, they took another look at the drawings and decided to come up with a story. The first issue of Eastman and Laird's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was self-published in May of 1984. This is an artisan version of it. This has 3. But this is basically what the comic is.
Mm-hmm.
And this one here actually also has like the original pencil art. If I can,
Yeah, you're right.
it's got the original pencil art in it, as well as the final comic. So, and it's also I can find it. It's also autographed by Kevin Eastman.
Yay!
So that came out in 1984, May of 1984, and a little over 3,000 copies were printed, and all 3,000 sold within days. So they quit their jobs and started making more comics. And so in 1987, they met with a guy named Mark Friedman, and Eastman and Laird agreed to let Friedman market the Ninja Turtles for companies to license. So Friedman went out to different companies trying to see if they'll license the Turtles for stuff. And he was able to nab a licensing deal with Playmates Toys. And for the next decade, they created the toys. And so in order to promote the toys, once again, Playmates hired a company to produce the cartoon. Playmates spent about $1.5 million on a 5-part animated miniseries, which later became the first season of the cartoon. The music was done by a guy named Chuck Lorre of Big Bang Theory fame. And he did it as an introduction to the characters, of course. Leonardo leads, Donatello does machines, Raphael's cool but rude, Michelangelo's a party dude. And it aired in December 14th, 1987.
And when the evil Shredder attacks, these turtle boys don't cut him no slack.
Yeah. So soon, Toys R Us decided to order 6,000 units of turtle toys from Playmates. It sold out quickly, and so Toys R Us ordered another 50,000 units, which is a much larger number. And the second season was bumped up to 13 episodes, and it was ordered in 1988. And just like He-Man, the cartoon turtles were different from the comic book turtles. They all, for instance, in the comics, they all have red bandanas. So they decided to differentiate them by color-coding bandanas. Bless you.
Sorry.
Bless you. That's fine. But yeah, they color-coded the bandanas, and they put initials on their belt buckles. And you can even see it in the thing.
Yes. Yes.
They took out the violence, of course. They had the weapons, but they didn't really use them the way they're supposed to be used. They made them like pizza and say cowabunga. April was now a news reporter and usually the damsel in distress. The foot soldiers became robots so that you can destroy them without killing anyone. And for some reason they race swapped Baxter Stockman, who was originally black. And they made him a white person in this one. I'm not sure why. Cartoon lasted for a decade, from 1987 to 1996, and would produce 5 seasons. And this is my Raphael cell from the cartoon, and it's from the company who produced the show, and it's just Raphael laughing, but yeah, so they
Sorry,
did that.
I can't help it. Gotta kind of point out this.
What's up? Oh, you got it. Yeah, see, but I have an actual piece of the cartoon.
I have the entire series, but you got something
for
better.
For what was it? 1/25th of a second. That was Raphael. But yes,
that's a good way to put it. That is a good way to put it.
The whole series, that's also pretty cool.
Well, what do you think about the movies, or at least the first movie when it came out? Because you mentioned Masters of the Universe, which sucked.
Well, that was the difference.
Say that out loud.
This one didn't. This one didn't
suck.
No,
it didn't.
It was really, really good. It's so good that 30 years later, they're selling toys of that cartoon for $100 a pop.
That when you look at the very first, I remember the tagline on the movie posters. Hey, dude, this ain't no cartoon.
Yeah, but here's
Yeah,
the
I
thing, though.
mean, I
They
remember
based a
that.
lot of that movie on the cartoon still instead of the comics. It was a little more darker, like the comics, but they still liked pizza. April O'Neil was still a reporter, you know. Um,
Yeah,
they said
yeah, they,
cowabunga.
well, I like how they did it with, actually, there was one thing I actually liked in the movie that I thought was a difference from the cartoon, and I liked that Splinter wasn't Hamato Yoshi turned into Splinter. I actually liked that Splinter was his pet rat was
Right.
a very intelligent animal even at that point, and Hamato Yoshi was his master,
Hmm.
and he learned the stuff, and then the mutagen and stuff. I thought that was, well, in a lot of ways, a better way to go about it
One
than
one
have
thing I would have
Hamato Yoshi turn into a rat.
one thing I wish they would have cleared up. What it doesn't really matter, but one thing I wish they would have cleared up a little more is how did Splinter get from Japan to New York? But I mean, like he could have like just snuck on a plane somehow. So,
Oh,
Oh, in the cartoon?
well, in the movie,
Oh, well, he said him and Shin fled to America, but we don't know how long they were in America. I mean, he comes in, he looks like he's kind of a repairman,
hmm
and he was just kind of, and the only reason why Orokusaki Shredder was able to beat him was he got him in a shocking moment and got him in a moment of weakness because he comes in and sees Shin dead on the floor, not expecting Orokusaki to come there.
well, that's the comics.
And
Yeah, that's the
that
comics.
no, that's actually what I'm talking about is actually from the movie. I've never read the TMNT comics, but sounds like something that Eastman and Ladin would have incorporated in there because Orokusaki was almost his equal, but what he did was so dishonorable. It threw it just he was able to catch, and I mean, no matter how trained you are, all it takes is one time to catch somebody off guard.
Sure.
No, know what I'm saying?
Right. So, a little bit on the other Eastman and Laird. So, um, they did start having disagreements on on certain things. For instance, when they did the live action Ninja Turtles show, they added the female turtle, and Laird was very much against that.
Oh, Venus. Oh yeah,
Venus.
that one. Yeah, I was actually so excited about that. I was like, man, we're gonna get a live action team, and then Venus showed up, and it wasn't even her that bothered me. It was just they didn't really act like the turtles
Right.
that
Right.
I understood.
So eventually, yeah. So eventually, they had a little. They had a falling out, sort of. Not a bad one, but they had a falling out. And Eastman sold his half of the franchise to Laird in 2000. And Laird, who had probably said in the past that he would never sell the franchise, ended up selling the whole franchise to Viacom in 2009. But
Ooh.
here's the thing: they paid him $60 million for it. That's a lot of money. Viacom spent $60 million to give the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise to Nickelodeon, and Nickelodeon has absolutely no idea what to do with it. They just keep rebooting it.
Oh yeah, I've saw a little bit of that.
I
Like
liked one of them. I
well,
did
I
like one of them.
remember. I remember. Well, let's focus on that because we've had a lot of reboots of the Turtles from the time we originally saw it. I remember when the earliest one was the '90s one, and it
Mhm.
just did not. I don't know if it was the animation. I think it was really the animation, but also the voices just didn't match up. The atmosphere didn't match up. I was so, fixed on this is what I know TMNT to be. And, my version was the kind of campy, our 80s version. So everything that came after that, kind of the same thing I'm going to say about Voltron in the future, is there are certain things that I'm just like, that's it. There's nothing else. I'm sorry. I can't expand past this. And with Turtles, I love the first two movies. I don't acknowledge the third movie. And we're not going to go into the that bullshit they want to call two turtle movies, which were not turtle movies.
At least
Those
they had
ones
Rocksteady and Bebop.
Well, they had Megan Fox, but let's be honest, Megan Fox. The only reason they had her there was for TNA.
I'm gonna be honest. She didn't play a good April, but anyways.
Wait a minute. She was supposed to be April. I must have missed that.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. But well, what about you? What about you, Alicia? What are your thoughts on that stuff?
I mean, I grew up in the 80s and I remember seeing about She-Ra. Now, one thing that Jack didn't mention is these books that they had. And I remember these book series that they were trying to get kids encouraged into reading and stuff like that. And it was really interesting because I didn't realize that there was a toys and stuff like that, even though I was an 80s baby. But I remember these books. I thought, oh, she's actually kind of cool. But but the Turtles, I always loved the Turtles. I always did. I mean, I was a tomboy type, play with a toy. I mean, I love the Turtles more than I did He-Man and all that. I mean, yeah.
I think like the Turtle. I think the Turtles, were kind of an allegory for being really good people, but we're still, no matter what they did, they were going to be outcasts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that resonates, and I don't know if that was their intention or not, but since the two of you agree with me on that, I got to believe there's more people who agree the same way. It was it's like, they're, no matter what they do, they're going to be so different. People are going to not accept, people are going to have a hard time accepting them. Yes, some will readily do it. Some will be hesitant, but then some will never, no matter what, accept them because they're just too fucking different.
There's two. There's a movie and a show that I actually really like. It's the second animated version that they did. I think it was the early 2000s. They actually based a lot of those episodes off of the early comics, and which I really liked. I thought that was really good. And then they eventually made their own stuff, and then they got canceled. But that I thought that one was pretty good. I thought the animation, it was a little darker. I thought it was good. And then the other thing that I really liked was Turtles Forever. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's a crossover between between those two versions of the animated Ninja Turtles.
I tried to watch that.
And the comic versions. The thing is, the only thing is, they make fun of the original cartoon a lot in that one. because I mean, it's like what I thought it was funny because Raphael is watching the four original Turtles. Raphael from the second cartoon is watching the four original Turtles, plus Michelangelo from his Turtles, all acting like the same, like Cowabunga, Turtle Power, blah blah blah. And Raph goes, "Oh my God, it's like having 5 Mikeys."
I tried to watch that episode because I heard about it, and I was just like, "You're insulting my turtles! Even though it was the same turtles insulting him, it was like watching a Doctor Who episode when the Doctor meets another version of the Doctor,
Right.
which never goes well.
Yes. Yeah, alternate universes don't work well. No.
Yeah, but I thought that was a nice little nod. I mean, as I said, like they do make fun of them, but I didn't feel like it was mean spirited.
Right.
I didn't finish it. I was too young back then. And as crazy as it sounds, I do actually don't have the temper I used to have.
Mm-hmm. Right.
By about that much.
So we got about 9 more minutes. Why don't you talk about Voltron or something? No, we can win.
All right. Well, let's. We'll table that one. I'll do Voltron next week, and then if I get through all of it, Alicia can get started. But yeah. Well, one thing I will say, kind of a preview about Voltron, is it's very interesting how these two different Japanese animations came to America. And here's the thing. They weren't exactly meant to be. They weren't the same series. The Vehicle Voltron and the Lion Voltron weren't even the same Japanese series. Completely different series. And somehow, these gentlemen who got the rights to these didn't have a translator to speak Japanese, so they edited, cut, watched in Japanese the dialogue, and watched the video, the video they had of what they were getting, and made their stories up as they went along, it seemed. And there's actually quite a bit about that, because there is a huge difference between what happened with the Lion Voltrons and what happened with the Japanese Go Lion.
Awesome. Oh, I got one more thing.
Oh, yes.
Do you want to see what Orko looks like unmasked?
No.
You don't?
No, I don't.
Well,
what?
Want to close your eyes? Okay. I'll let you know when it's up.
It's up. Don't look, just.
Okay, you can look now.
It's
I
gone.
put it away. I put it away. I just wanted to show the audience.
I'm deleting this now. I reside from the internet. Press send. No, actually, that is I don't know, that's a weird thing for me. I never really ever cared what Orko looked like. Curious, yes, but I always thought the mystery was kind of a bit of the entertainment.
Sure. I get that.
Because up in his culture, remember, it was when He-Man was talking to Battle Cat, and he's like, they want to show faces, and it's like being engaged, and Battle Cat's like, oh, give me a break.
Right. Yeah,
and
Orko had a girlfriend, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, she has her veil, he has his scarf. That's the best thing I know to call it. And it was scarf. Like they wanted to, he was saying, would you like to show faces? And, as children, we didn't really maybe get that, but we maybe understood the getting engaged part. But still, it was like we didn't see what they looked like. They both took theirs off, And, you know, I mean, Orko said, he's like, you're beautiful. And it's like, you know, we don't know what their definition of beauty is. I mean, let's be fucking honest. We're humans. We live in North America. We're all three Americans. One lives on the West Coast, one lives on the East Coast, and I'm the Midwesterner here, just right between a couple of time zone lines. But we're also different in our cultures and stuff. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Beauty is like comedy. Beauty is like entertainment. It's perspective. It's what we, not what somebody else. It's like I've told people, they're like, can you explain the joke? I'm like, if I have to explain the joke, you won't find it funny.
Right.
They're like, why? I'm like, because if I have to explain a joke, it's not a good thing. It just, and I had some people who would think I was trying to insult them. I'm like, no, it's not that you won't laugh. It's just, if I have to explain it, it takes the humor out of it because it's just not something you understand. I said, there's nothing wrong with that. I said, sometimes we say things other people don't understand.
Sure, it's a personal experience, so I get it.
Yeah. Or like I said, we're all from different parts of the same country, but we have different slangs. We have different ways of doing things. Hell, all three of us have different accents. Well, wait a minute. Two of us have accents, and then we've got Jack, who has no accent that I can just
I hear that. He's got an accent. He says he has an accent.
I'm from Cali, dude. Cowabunga.
Cali is not a real accent. I'm sorry, man. I couldn't help but teach you about that part. I was watching this show. I haven't gotten back to it yet, but I will. It deals with you remember the guy who played Sabretooth in the X-Men Origins Wolverine?
Sure.
Liev Schreiber.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
his name. Yeah. Well, he plays a character from Boston. It was so funny. I'm not going to go into it because I can't remember the name of the show, but his wife is, you know, he wants to buy her house out in Cali because they can't go back to Boston, but they both have those very thick Boston kind of accents. And it's like this lady comes over while she's looking at a house, and she's a valley girl, California. You can tell by her voice.
Like
and,
totally tubular.
And she's talking to the Boston girl, and she goes, "Oh, you must be from Boston." She's like, and then she says, you know, one of those sub districts. You know how it is. You're part of a main area, maybe Boston or something like that, but you're in like a suburb or something right outside of it. And she's like, "Oh, well, the way you said this and the way you said that, I gave it away. Oh, that's kind of cute." And she goes, "Oh, I find it cute." That was the California mentality. And I love how the Boston lady was like, "Do you think your accent sounds appealing to me? Think the way you talk sounds appealing to me?" You know, she got really, you know, when we have those accents that get thick, oh boy, when we're pissed, those accents get thick.
Oh yeah.
"Hey Jack, I'm gonna make an offer you can't refuse."
I refuse.
No, that's not how it works. Jack, you idiot. Sorry, that was a Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, now
I
we
can't
moved on to
believe
Ren
I
and Stimpy.
blended The Godfather and Ren and Stimpy in the same thing.
By the way, I have a Ren animation cell as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, they were birthday gifts to myself. Basically, I bought six. I bought six production cells, and then I have the drawing, and then I have a series cell for Ren and Stimpy. But I also have a production cell of Ren.
oh, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, like I said, we kind of we're gonna have to turn this into a three-parter. So, Alicia, you get to start next week off, and we're gonna go into the nostalgia, and we are gonna drag this motherfucker. I'm
Yep.
sorry, guys. I'm just in a good mood. By the way, for anybody who doesn't know, I don't normally brag, but I'm gonna do a little bragging right now. Today is mine and my wife's 15th anniversary.
Yay!
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You know what the great thing is when we talk about it's like, does it feel like it's been long? It's like, no, it feels so short, so quick, so fast. And it's like, we say that a lot. It's like, no, there's no way we feel it drag. It just feels so fast sometimes. And thank you, Mrs. Watchtower. Yes, my wife, Madam Geek, and I, Rachel, this is, 15 years.
That's awesome.
Yes.
It is.
Going on forever.
Oh, well, the only way this marriage ends is, well, one of us in the ground because neither one of us getting divorced.
No, I get it. That's why I said on forever.
Damn right. All right, guys. Y'all have a blessed one. Thank you for coming in chat. Thank you all for coming around. Bone, Jeff B, Mrs. Watch, everyone. And you know what? It's okay. We only did one part of our segment. That's the fun of doing what we do. We have a blast. Now, at some point, I expect these two to be doing streams side by side in different rooms in the same house.
Eventually.
Oh, did I say that out loud? All right, everyone. Y'all have a blessed one. Alicia, Jack, do you have anything you want to plug?
Nope.
Oh, I think I've said plenty today.
All right,
No.
guys. I don't have anything. Well, I've got a Sonic 2 review I've eventually got to get my ass around doing. Maybe do one on Moon Knight, but honestly, I don't want to do an individual episode. I kind of want to do a whole season because I've already got Picard I got to deal with individually, so I can only take one fuck up at a time.
Right.
All right, everyone. Like I said, though, Alicia, Jack, this guy here, who is he? Yeah, this guy, me, whatever. All right, everyone, thank you for coming. We're going to come back next Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Alicia is going to take the reins and talk about...
Yabba yabba da do. Flintstones and the Jetsons.
That is going to be interesting. You're going to include the movie, right?
Of course.
Good. Oh, thank God. Okay. Yeah, we can definitely make an hour out of that alone. All right, everyone. Have a gay old time.